every now and again, I like to go to Coffee Bean because they basically don't make coffee, they make desserts where they happen to have coffee in them.
That's true.
And I used to get my kids, they have like this vanilla ice blended. It has no coffee in it. It's just kind of like a milkshake.
Okay.
Because I'm cheap as shit, I would get the 32 ounce, this big ass vanilla ice blended, and then ask for 2 extra cups. And I'd pour a little bit out for my kids, and they would get little drinks, and I would get a little drink, and everybody was happy, and it was like $6 or whatever. So I went in a little while ago and ordered one of those, and like, oh yeah, we don't do that in a 32 ounce anymore. I'm like, it's literally just ice, milk, and powder. Why not? He's like, well, because people order it and they split it. And I'm like, well, my next question for you was going to be a couple cups to go with that. So I guess we're not doing that anymore. So they closed that loophole. That's for the kids. For me, I normally just get like a vanilla latte, which again is a couple shots of like 3 shots of espresso on the large, and then their vanilla powder, which is just made out of gold and platinum and delicious.
Sure, of course it is.
And it's super sweet, and that's my like dessert coffee, right? So one day I'm in there, and this woman is ordering the 32 ounce, the massive cup, as a vanilla ice latte, but she ordered it. She added like 4 shots and then said no ice. Okay. And I'm like, I look at her, I'm like, lady, what? Like, how did you get into a world?
You're going to drink that and you're going to die.
Where you need 7 shots of espresso.
Quiet, please.
And then no ice. Like, holy shit, in a 32 ounce cup.
Yeah.
And she kind of smiles. She goes, well, I order that. And then I just take it back to the office and I just have cups of ice and I just pour it over cups of ice. I get like 3 drinks out of it. And now I've gone from like, you're insane to you are a fucking genius.
Sure.
Right? So I happen to say to her,
they're going to cancel your drink in about 2 minutes.
Exactly.
So enjoy it quickly.
I'm laughing. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, that's genius. I'm like, yeah, wait till corporate hears about this. They're going to shut this shit down. And she smiles and lowers her voice and looks at me. She goes, I work for Coffee Bean Corporate.
Oh, nice.
And I giggle. I was like, no way. I was like, well, clearly you don't work in the accounting department. And she laughs and she goes, I work in accounting. And I'm like, wow, you are literally you are why this business is losing money, because you're just in there. I mean, I'm sure they're not like, there's a lot of cogs in coffee grounds and hot water.
3,
Nothing. Right.
2.
Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 2, Episode 14. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stu Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, since we're both just returning from travel, we'll take a brief look at some headlines. So it won't be a full-length show, but at least there's a show today.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone at home is thinking, oh, thank God there's at least a show.
It's Dog Therapy Appreciation Day. Appreciate the dogs who comfort us by being therapy dogs. Therapy dogs go through our rigorous testing programs before they become certified. With their certification, they become eligible to visit hospitals and nursing homes to give comfort to people. Being around dogs makes everyone happy. Well, unless you've been corralled by dogs, maybe. And on this day, we thank all the dogs for the joy that they bring. How's your week going?
Do you think there's like a dog counselor's office where the dogs they're all sitting outside trying to figure out what they're like? What are you gonna? You going for therapy? And he's like, no, I'm going for drug detection. Like what? Like how do they?
Like a job counseling service for
exactly.
dogs. Here.
Like they're just trying to figure out what they go into, and the therapy dog's like, well, we get an appreciation day.
I'm trying to get into the circus. I want to be one of those dogs who does the
thing?
tricks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad it's Dog Therapy Appreciation Day.
My dog applied for and got a spot as a dog who, mostly naps all day.
Yeah, snoring. You got the snoring in the background. I don't know if our listeners have heard. We have some unintended Easter eggs of Barkley just snoring in the background.
Between having your father here with us and my dog, there's a lot of coughing and snoring on the tracks.
Yeah,
and I won't tell you who is doing which.
Yeah, well, and I think even you and I occasionally. I mean, I think every now and again you're talking about, I don't know, something high speed, something rail, and I just nod off. You hear my face hit the microphone. Oh, here we go. All right, let's get back.
How's your week going?
How's my week? My week is great. That we are coming off of a couple things. One, this is always my favorite time in Southern California because I have switched from mainly wearing pants to mainly not wearing pants, which is fantastic. So that's always
when the arrest occurred.
Usually in April. It is a condition of my parole. No, I get to wear shorts. It's warm. It's nice. But more importantly, we just got back from our little eclipse journey, which was fantastic.
Tell me everything.
So we went to, I think I mentioned this on one of the previous shows. I found a place that was right in the middle of totality in the southwestern corner of Oklahoma, the northeastern corner of Texas, basically.
You can now tell us the name of that town.
Yes, called Broken Bow. I didn't want all of our listeners to mob us there. I like to keep some privacy and anonymity. No, so we rented a giant house, invited a bunch of friends, some of which are listeners, which is lovely. And we went to this house for the eclipse, which again is right in the middle of totality. So we should have had 4 minutes and 14 seconds of totality was the plan. A bunch of our families went, my kids went, and my in-laws, and it was lovely. The weather was sunny and beautiful for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the whole weekend we spent there. Beautiful. This house might have a 3-story indoor stainless steel slide in it.
Stainless steel? Does it get hot? Does the sun get on it?
No, it's inside, so it's literally indoors.
But there's no like windows and things where the sun can blast down on it.
No. No, there's no way the sun's getting to get tree cover everywhere. No sun. But it is lovely. And you slide down this thing and it's an absolute blast. The kids loved it. The adults loved it. I went down it more than once. The challenge was you get to the bottom. There's like a 15-foot stainless steel sort of flat runway that you sort of stop on. And then, you shimmy your butt off and that's the slide experience. And I was like, this is not acceptable. So I theoretically may have gone to Walmart and theoretically may have bought car detailer spray wax and waxed the fuck out of the bottom of that slide. And then the moment we did this, we were definitely in a sober state when we waxed this thing. And one of my friends went down it, who is a listener to the show, and shot out the end at about 30 miles an hour, which was spectacular. And we decided not to wax the whole thing. Just that was enough. But the next morning, we had a rule the kids couldn't go down the slide before 9 a.m. just to try to keep it quiet. And when my son first went down it was awesome. Like he literally shot out the end and like bounced on his butt on the ground. And I'm like, if we wax up a little bit more, I think we can get him out the window. But I think that
Why didn't you wax the whole slide? Why didn't you go take it the whole way?
Listen to me. The face on my wife when she saw that I bought spray wax was enough to tell me that this was a terrible idea. And I think her exact quote to me was,
I think that's so
her
fun.
exact quote to me was, of course, in a very sarcastic tone, thanks a lot for taking something that I had no anxiety over and now giving me anxiety because you waxed the fucking slide. And then we took the bottle. It's like a $5 detailer shine. It's like the shit you spray in your car.
Sure.
Right? Like this is 100% true. I did have that bottle in my hand and the jar of the turtle wax, the paste turtle wax that I thought about.
That's too much work.
I was like, that's gonna be a lot of fucking work. And also like you're gonna go way too fast. Anyway, we left the bottle there at the house and put a piece of tape over it and we put slide spray or slide wax on it and left it there for future guests of the house. So hopefully they don't sue me for doing that. What's even more amazing about this place, and I really can't recommend this house. There were some things about it that were a little weird, but most of it was amazing. There were 2 rooms that had 2 sets of twin queen bunk beds.
Okay.
I am this many years old. I have never seen a queen bunk bed in my life.
It's got to be hard to put the sheets on it.
Oh, fucking impossible. There's no way I was doing that job. There were 2 bunks in each room, and then this is amazing. Between the queen top bunks was a slide to get down. So my children slept on the bunks every night, and they would wake up, and the first thing they want to do is go down the slide. Now,
of course.
That slide is only 8 feet tall, but it's at like a 45-degree, inclination. So they go down this thing super fucking fast. This is a plastic slide, and they just bounce off the bottom. And like my father-in-law was like, open the bathroom door, see if they can bounce into the bathroom. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I woke up in the morning to them going thump thump, just bouncing up. It was a blast. We had a ton of fun. That was the lead up to the eclipse.
Yes. Oh yes.
And then on the day of the eclipse, we woke up in the morning very excited. This is the main event, and we look up and it's clouds. Just all clouds.
Man.
Can't see the sun.
Thick clouds. Thick clouds.
Low,
Like you couldn't
thick
see through
clouds. And I was devastated. And everybody was like, oh, that's okay. I'm like, no, it's not fucking okay. We didn't come. And I knew this was a real risk, right? I identified this when we found this place. But pretty much everyone in totality, from Texas all the way up through Oklahoma, through Arkansas, had about a 40% chance of clouds, right? That's what the almanac tells you, what the data tells you. Okay, well, that's 2 out of 5. Like, you roll the dice, this is what happens. And we then, unwilling to accept this, me and all the nerdy scientist engineering friends that we had there are now pretending to be meteorologists and looking at satellite photos of clouds and looking at this hole here.
Hoping this will clear.
There's I literally at one point said, well, there's like a high pressure ridge here. And I'm like, I have no fucking idea if that's true.
Right.
Like, there's definitely a line where the clouds are disappearing. I think it's high pressure. I don't know. I'm just doing my best Fritz Coleman impression.
Could be a line that Donald Trump drew with a Cato marker.
Totally. We were really debating whether or not we should drive into clarity. And I was like, fuck, I don't care about the house. Let's go get somewhere we can see totality. The only place we could drive.
Where would you have to drive?
The only
How far
place
away would
we
you
could
have to
drive that would give us totality that was going to be pretty much certain to be clear was towards Little Rock, Arkansas. And that was about a 3-hour drive, which I was fine with. However, the mistake that I made was trying to fly home that night out of Dallas. And there's no way we would have made our flight. I thought about, we could change our flight to leave from Little Rock, right? And figure that out. The problem with that was we had Turo'd a car because all the car rental services were full. So I couldn't just drop off a Turo car in Little Rock and be like,
I don't know what a Turo car is.
Turo's like sort of the Airbnb of cars. You're
so
renting
like
someone's
a personal car.
Yeah. Now this was a company. It wasn't a person. It's a company on Turo, but still, they don't have a presence in Little Rock. You can't just drop off their car.
It's like Hertz where you can drop the car off anywhere.
Exactly. And just, pay the difference or whatever.
They don't care, right?
Done. Anyway, so long story not so long, we stayed there. I was starting to, I'm like a bobsled, starting to dip over the curve into depression, and was like, fuck, this sucks. Like, I brought all these people out. This is terrible. And I was just very slow going upstairs, setting up all my cameras, and I brought a 360 camera and GoPros and setting all up, and everybody was trying to be nice and cheery, and I was just depressed. And then, and I'm not exaggerating, 12 minutes before totality hit, that hole blew right over us. And you could see the sun, and it was amazing. We had our glasses, we had our cameras. Now, my plan was to shoot pictures of the people watching the eclipse, and my friend who was there was going to shoot the eclipse. So that was the plan, right? He had a neutral density filter. He was shooting leading up to it, yada, 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 all this fun stuff. I had no plan to shoot the eclipse. Once totality hit, you can only get so many pictures of your friends in the dark where you're just like, all right, I've got the shot.
Sure.
So I reached over.
Did you go to, how dark did it get for you?
Dude, it gets dark. So you go from what we talked about. Do you listen to the show?
I should.
For us, it was an odd ride because you go from cloudiness where, right, there's no shadows. It's already like a little muted. And then the sun appears when it was sort of mid-eclipse, still super sunny, got warm because the cloud cover went away.
Sure.
Then you go into the penumbra and you're like, oh, wow, this is dark. Like, wow, we're in the totality has begun. You're not in the darkness yet. It's still like, it's like a really cloudy day in the penumbra. Then when you hit the umbra, holy shit, it's dark. I mean, it's like dusk dark. Like in your brain, the next expectation is it's going to be pitch black. It's that dark.
Wow, you're that close.
It's super dark. Now, we couldn't see as much of the sky because there was still cloud cover on the edges, but you could see some planets pop out. You could a planet pop out. It was pretty cool. Now, what's interesting is at that moment, when we hit in the umbra, my Bluetooth speaker may have played Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Of course it
Who
did.
knows how that happened, which I thought was funny. Everyone else was like, meh. But, it's dark and it's cold. Like you get chilly quick. It's amazing how when that sun disappears, it gets pretty chilly pretty quick. And then you're in darkness. Now we're in this for like maybe, I don't know, 45 seconds or a minute. I've shot the people as much as I can. I'm staring at my 7200 with an extender. You don't need a filter to shoot when you're in totality. So I'm like,
oh, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's dark. So I'm like, you know what? Let's take some shots. Like, I don't really care about shots of the ring, but why not? Best decision I could have made. Holy shit. I got a couple solar flares in the bottom, some of these weird aberrations. It was absolutely bonkers, the shots I was able to get. And that was handheld, no tripod, just pointing it at the sun like one does. So true story. I knew the time was leaving eclipse and it started to, and I'm still taking pictures and I was like, oh, I'm going to stop now.
Yeah, for sure.
Do not look into laser with remaining eye was what went through my brain. Like it was definitely bright. And then I decided to put that down and stop. But it was super cool. I have not gone through the video yet. I have not gone through the stills. I'm trying to get my life with my kids back together, but I'm getting close. I will later this week, get through it. But it was super cool. It all worked out in the end. We took off. We were delayed on the runway leaving from DFW due to rainstorm coming in. This is actually pretty neat. We got out 45 minutes late and we took off. This has never happened in my life of travel. We took off between two thunderstorm cells. So we had lightning on both sides of the plane.
Oh, that's
cool.
My
first thought was all my gear is sitting above me in two bags. I wanted to pull out a GoPro and a suction cup and stick it to the window because it would have been an amazing video.
Sure.
But the flight attendants were being very kind and we had been waiting and yet I didn't want to piss them off by getting out when the seatbelt sign was on. I should have pulled that out. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about shooting out the window. But you get this crazy lightning in the storm clouds and to have it on both sides of the plane as you're taking out was pretty neat. We had a great time. It was a great location. I could not believe the police presence. You couldn't drive 3 miles without seeing 4 state troopers. And it was a complete and utter
wonder why
nothing
that
burger.
was.
They were expecting a bunch of people to show up. I don't think it ever happened. Now, it could have been because it was clouded in and folks didn't show up. But this was a town that was like right on the path, the center line of totality. And I think they were just expecting a huge show of people and they wanted to have a presence so people didn't do dumb shit, which, all right, cool.
But the people who were going to show up were like total nerds. They weren't going to do anything. They were going to
like throw your slide rule at somebody. What are you going to do? So give me all your Bitcoin. Anyway, our neighborhood that we were in, where this house rental was, when that hole passed over, you could hear a cheer in the whole neighborhood, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
We were all waiting for the same thing. Also worth pointing out, and this I believe is in the film that I have that I'll edit. On the deck, we were viewing from a rooftop deck in the house. On the deck we were viewing was a hot tub, and one of my friends just sat in the hot tub the whole time.
How lovely!
He just watched the eclipse, drinking a beer from a hot tub, and I was like, "Man, you're living life." Like that's
kind of the perfect way to do it. That's fantastic.
I'm like anxious about the cloud cover. I'm setting up cameras cameras and shit, and he's just chilling, drinking a beer. So I put a GoPro on him in the hot tub. So there's like a ISO GoPro on him in the hot tub. We'll call it the Sean Cam of him just drinking a beer the whole time. It was super cool. No, it was a great time. We made it in and out alive. And before the eclipse, I took the kids to the water park, the indoor water park there. It's the Great Wolf Lodge for a couple of days because they love it. Like my children went, they would still be going up and down a water slide with no sleep if I let them.
Yeah.
They had a great time.
My kid used to love those Great Wolf Lodges.
Oh man, so much fun. And the other great thing about that Great Wolf Lodge for me is when I go there, I am the thinnest person there.
Yeah, sure.
Which is always I'm like, I'm really not that fat. I think I'm okay. I'm gonna have another cheeseburger. I think I'm fine. Just walking around like, no, I'm doing pretty good. I feel like
it's in California where you feel like well, I'm an elephant.
I go to the Great Wolf Lodge.
Everybody here wears 9 pounds.
I go to the Great Wolf Lodge here, and even here, I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing okay. I'm doing just fine. Anywhere else, I go to the beach in Santa Monica, and I feel like someone's going to pull the harpoon out of me and push me back into the water, which is what I'm always afraid of. Like, no, I'm fine. Like, you're going to be okay. We'll save you. No, it was a very good time. I cooked for everybody. I have some of this for you. You don't even know this yet.
Yeah.
I ordered 2 Franklin briskets.
Man.
And brought some home.
Wow.
And let me tell you, his chilled brisket. So they prep it, they make it, they vacuum pack it and chill it. Sure. I think it's 94% as good as fresh. The one guy in our group who knows Franklin brisket well, because he lives in Austin, he said 75%. My hunch is he's probably more right than me because the bark does get soft, but the flavor and texture and consistency is all there, and it's delicious. And you can get it on Goldbelly. I didn't know that. You can order Franklin briskets on Goldbelly.
Yeah,
you pay a little bit of a premium over his premium. But
a few might have arrived here during the pandemic.
Oh, really? Oh, did you order some Franklin? Oh, you cheater. Oh, man. I mean,
along with some blueberry pie from Michigan, which is the best blueberry pie I've ever had in my
probably
life.
Western Michigan. There are orchards behind where my dad lives.
Yeah.
We got out alive. My takeaways were Total Eclipses, super cool. Everybody should see at least one. I think we're going to become chasers. I think we're going to do this every couple of years.
Well, especially if you have a fun crew of friends who will go with
that's what made it work. I mean, this is a great group of folks. We haven't all been together like this in a while. And like midway through one of the first nights there, one of my friends was like, "We should do this once a year." And I was like, "Yes."
Well, you can't.
By the third, no, she meant just getting together. It was funny. By the third day, she's like, "I think once every 2 years."
Sure.
And I was like, "Yeah, if we stay here 5 days, it'll be once every 5 years. Trust me."
Let's never do this again.
The Turo experience, because all the major rental car companies were booked up. The Turo experience in DFW was incredible. They parked our truck. I got a Suburban to haul all this shit. They parked it in the parking space pretty much closest to our gate. So we walked out. You check in with the app. It unlocks the doors. You have the Turo for the whole time. You bring it back full. You park it in the same basic, wherever you want.
Yeah.
Take a picture, lock the doors, walk away. No rental car bus, none of that bullshit, no waiting in line. It was spectacular. So that was awesome.
Never used it. I don't even know. This is an app that I just download?
It's Airbnb for cars.
That's cool.
So you can rent. So we had most everybody that was with us, because when we booked, cars weren't available. They booked with Turo. Now, I specifically picked a company on Turo that had a fleet of vehicles because I felt like it was less likely to be canceled.
Yeah.
2 of my friends that were there, one booked it was a dude's wife's daily driver X5, which was comedy. Like, it was like this woman's like just her daily X5, and he rented that, and he gets it. And the day he gets it, the dude who owns it was like, "Hey, I totally forgot it's due for an oil change. If you want to take it by the dealership and have them do the oil change, like I'll pay for it." And he's like, "I'm on fucking vacation. I'm not taking your car in for an oil change."
2 hours getting your oil changed.
The guy was cool. I just thought it was hysterical. Anyway.
By the way, I also need a valve job. If you could swing by.
Exactly. Yeah. Just the rear end needs to be replaced. No big deal. It's tire rotation. Just I'll reimburse you.
You'll do that, won't you? Come on.
What a great way to just get people to do your car maintenance for you. Just rent it out and just be like, "Hey, can you swing by Costco and get some tires?" Can't be but a couple hours. No, so Turo worked out great. The other big surprising win is I showed up with paper glasses.
Yes.
Same as ones you had. I had plastic, like proper sunglasses for.
Thank you for those, by the way.
Yeah, it's incredible. You can't really enjoy it without paper glasses. I brought the plastic glasses, which I used for me and my buddy who were taking photos because we were popping them off and on constantly. So I wanted like real glasses. I got binoculars, like actual legit binoculars that are only good for looking at the sun. They have filters. Like, wow. I will never use these again until you look at the sun. And then I brought these really crappy paper binoculars, 2X paper binoculars. And out of everything we bought, those crappy 2X paper binoculars from Celestron were the far and away hit. They were the best.
Tell me
thing.
why. Tell me why.
You don't have to worry about any alignment. Right? With like 10X and 20X binoculars, you got to worry about alignment. You got to find the sun, and that's not easy. The color was great. So what we'd learned is the different filters, you end up with different colorations of what you're looking at. This kind of gave an orangish coloration, whereas the real binoculars gave you more of a white coloration, and the orange is just more pleasant. You had a better field of view because it was only 2x. You could see more of the aberration around the eclipse. And they're also super light. Like I could hand them to my kids, and they could just pick them up and look at the sun. And it was great. They fold up flat. They don't weigh anything. I'm like, these are the things to buy. Like, so
that's really cool. And where do you get them? Where did you get them?
I got them from Amazon.
Oh, wow.
I bought from Celestron on Amazon. They're like $5 each. I mean, they're super cheap.
Sweet.
So anyway, that was my big wins. Also Costco for the win. I was the guy walking around Costco Friday morning buying, a ton. I had 2 carts full of shit. I built an Excel calculator.
Well, you got a lot of people to feed.
Yeah. I built an Excel calculator as I do for everything in life to figure out how much food I needed for everybody. And I'm walking around Costco in Dallas, Fort Worth buying everything. And I go to the guy. There's a guy literally in the freezer. And I was like, hey man, can you help me find some stuff? And he's like, okay. And they were out of American cheese, which was bizarre. And I was like, hey, where do I get the liquor? I'm like, I need to buy some whiskey and some rum. And he looks at me and he's like, you're in Puritan County, son.
Oh, really?
Like, oh, fuck.
I never heard of that.
Costco doesn't have liquor.
Wow.
You literally can't buy liquor there. And then he pointed me to another Costco on the way out of town. He's like, they sell liquor, but it's in a separate store. So there's like the Costco warehouse and there's like a Costco liquor store. And I was like, that sounds like a place I want to go.
Sure.
We ended up buying it from some other places. But
is that by law? They have to have it in a separate building? Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's a dry county, I guess. So it's just crazy to me that that's a thing. So good old Texas. But it was very fun. We had a great time. I have no complaints. 2026 is going to be Iceland, Greenland, Spain, Portugal. This is in August. I think I'm going to plan this and we'll make this a proper event with a bunch of people because all of those places sound amazing to visit. And if we do Iceland, there's a reasonable chance we might be able to see
active volcanoes
and a penis museum and the Northern Lights. Aurora Borealis.
Okay.
By the way, this is what I watched on the airplane when my kids were finally contained. I watched old Carson, Letterman, and Conan shows. And
What's wrong with that?
What have I become? Right. By the way, Letterman with Eastwood on Johnny on the farewell shows the last month.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
It's Letterman doing his show. He comes in and it's crazy to see the juxtaposition between when he came on as a comic and was like, sort of fumbling through it to when.
Because he realizes what you want to do, what you want in a guest is someone who just takes over so you can go on vacation.
Well, also, I'm sitting here going like, audience transfer right here. Like, that's what we got going on. He's just here, doing the like, I'm going to be me and whoever comes along, comes along. But it was phenomenal. It was so great to see him.
That's awesome.
And then him jabbing at Clint and oh man.
And Clint, yes. The Clint thing is brilliant.
He has a joke for McMahon. I don't know if you remember this, but his setup, like I'm not going to justice, but his setup, Letterman's setup is, a lot of people have asked, and I don't. It's none of my business. I don't want to know, but like Ed, you've saved your money, right? Fucking, there are some laughs in the back that have got to be like the writers because it crushes it. I mean, it is so funny. And that's it. That's all he does. He doesn't punch it up. He doesn't come back. That's all he does. And I'm like, man, that is gold.
This has nothing to do with the eclipse. We'll come back to the eclipse in a second, I promise. But the first episode, when he comes on after Johnny has announced his retirement, he looks over at the band and he goes, boys, the gravy train is over.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Did you get a chance to see any of the video of the eclipse from the space station, the International Space Station?
No.
It's really cool. It's worth looking up.
Yeah.
And if we find a good clip of it, we'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Because that was really interesting.
I haven't had the time since we got back, and it's just been a whirlwind. I haven't had time to go through any of my footage. This will give you hives. It's all still sitting on SD card. I haven't even copied anything over yet.
That does give me hives.
I know. I haven't had time to look at what anybody else has done. I have done none of this, but I will this week. So I promise, hopefully before our next show, I'll have a better sense of how the world
There have been
views
some
the eclipse.
amazing.
I bet.
The AP has this beautiful slide. It's not a slideshow, but it's a collection of photos that is absolutely incredible from people all over the path of totality. That was amazing.
How about you? How was your eclipse journey?
Our eclipse was, well, first of all, I was not in the path of totality, so it was a very different experience.
Very close.
As listeners know, I was in the path of 89 percentality, which I think counts sort of, but not really.
Yes,
it did not get fully dark.
You were what we call totality adjacent.
Exactly. It got dim. The temperature did not plummet. There was sunlight, but the nice thing is I had so many of those glasses, and I knew I was going to just have so much fun being Santa Claus passing these things out.
You were the Oprah?
Now, the night before the eclipse was coming, the hotel put on everyone's nightstand a pair of those glasses.
Yeah.
So when I gave out to a friend of mine walked up. I was at the breakfast thing, which is actually out on an outdoors patio thing. Walked up and started talking about the eclipse, and she had her glasses, her eclipse glasses from the hotel. And I said, "Oh, you might want to try using these instead." And she puts them on, and she looks up at the sun, and then she puts on the hotel ones, and she looks up at the sun, and she puts mine on, she looks up at the sun, and she goes, "Through the hotel ones, I can see much better." Yeah, that might be exactly the problem.
That's not what you want. If you're not seeing total darkness.
That's not desirable.
Yeah. Quick question. Would you like your eyesight to work after the eclipse? That might be the first question I would ask.
The hotel one said ISO or something like that, but there's like no number. It's clearly...
It was misspelled.
Clearly,
it was a 5.
Clearly just somebody wrote ISO on this thing. It had absolutely no actual approval in any way.
Totally.
The eclipse was fun because we had little thin clouds that would pass over, but mostly we had clarity. And so you got to see the disk slightly over the sun, and then more, and then more, and then we got to see that whole progression, which was really cool.
You know, it's a sphere, right?
Not a disc?
Not a disc.
All the people on Facebook said it was a disc.
Yeah, you're in the wrong groups, my friend. And by wrong groups, I mean, Facebook in total. The totality of Facebook is the wrong group.
Anyway, so it was clear skies, and it did get dim. It didn't get dark.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled to... This was cool because the hotel, I don't know why these hotels do this. First of all, when you're in Mexico, there is no place on planet Earth where hospitality is done at a higher level than Mexico.
Sure.
It's incredible. Every hotel I've ever stayed at in Mexico, it's like, wow, this is the Four Seasons times 10 in America. It's so great there. You're about to say because labor costs nothing, I'm sure.
No, I want to go ahead and suggest that I'm pretty confident there are hotels in Mexico that don't have that experience. You just don't stay there.
I mean, I stay at decent hotels all over the place, and I promise you the Mexican hotel experience is fantastic.
I'm going to go throw a dart at bestwestern.mx and we'll see what comes up. And I'm pretty sure...
I wasn't at the Best Western MX,
sure
but maybe.
You're not gonna...
I don't know why they don't do this, but they hadn't given any of their employees glasses.
Oh, geez.
They'd given them to all the guests.
Sure.
The employees want to see this as much as anybody. So
this is a human
that's who I ultimately ended up targeting with my giveaway glasses. It was like, you get a pair of glasses and you get a pair of glasses.
You were Oprah.
Yeah, totally. I was just like, we're all going to watch this together. We're all going to enjoy this together. You don't have to be a guest. You can be whoever you are. We should all be able to see this. And that was really cool. And then we never got totality, but
89 centality.
As it was nearly what we were going to see, I started taking pictures of all the people looking up at the sun and the glasses, which I loved. I mean,
cool.
I knew people were going to get better pictures of the actual eclipse.
Yeah, of course. Why try? Yeah, that was my view.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was so much fun looking at all the people looking up at the sky in those funny glasses. So it was a great time.
I did have a lovely moment when my kids were looking at the eclipse, or the start of the eclipse, before we got totality. I said, oh no. And they're like, "What, Daddy?" And I hurriedly grabbed a pair of the paper, eclipse glasses, and put them on my son's Baby Yoda doll so that she could watch the eclipse. And Max was like, "Oh yeah, Daddy, sorry, I forgot." And I was like, "We just got to be careful.
Always be careful."
Got a great picture of Baby Yoda wearing totality glasses staring at the sun. Wearing eclipse glasses staring at the sun.
I love that. The other thing we got to see, which you probably didn't get to see in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, was we saw the whale migration.
Oh no, there's a lot of that in Broken Bow. Let me tell you.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you go to that Walmart, there are a lot of whales migrating around.
Nothing but whales there.
Yeah, mainly in the potato chip aisle.
Thanks to a friend of both of ours who alerted me that the whale migration north was underway. It's like the 405 of whales. I mean, it's you are just seeing whale after whale after whale traveling east to west around the tip of Cabo, and then they head north for colder waters. When you get on the east side of Baja, there are apparently bays and things where the whales give birth because it's less rough seas.
Okay.
And so all those mother whales and their babies all come out at a certain point, and they begin the migration north to colder waters.
Okay.
And so you just see whale after whale after whale. And it's mostly spouts that we saw, which is more likely to be gray whales than humpbacks, but it's still like, that's a lot of whales.
Was the whale migration truly like the whales on the 405? Like, was there one broken down on the side of the road and everybody was just slowing down to look at it?
There was a whale parked off to one side who was on fire. That's true. Yeah.
Everyone's and there's like is there one angry whale in the back of the line like me who's like, "What, you never seen a whale on fire? Fucking keep going. God damn it. Trying to get my dinner reservation."
I would like to go to the other side when it's actually birthing time. The whale maternity ward would be really cool probably to go and see.
Well, that's what I've always wondered is how is it when these whales are born, how is it they don't drown?
Nature finds a way. I have no idea.
Like the whale just comes out and it's like, "Oh wait, I know what to do." And then it just goes on.
Hang on, here's air.
Yeah, like how does it know?
I think there's this thing called instinct that probably kicks in.
And pretty much every other species for the most part can survive
Dolphins
on its own.
Dolphins have to get air too. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Great. Okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm a big fan of eclipses and whales, and you got to do both together. Maybe in 2026 we can do, instead of whales, we can do totality in Iceland with Aurora Borealis.
Do we still have time to do any headlines? Because there are a couple of things we just ought to mention.
I feel like we should try. I mean, for our listeners.
A whistleblower claims that Boeing 787 Dreamliner is flawed. The FAA is investigating. The whistleblower is saying that the panels don't line up correctly, and so people have been applying the weight and force of their bodies to make the holes line up so they can screw them together, which causes stress, and over time he's saying it will cause failure in these panels.
I like when he submitted his claim, that the 787 is flawed. The FAA's response was, duh. Of course.
They had in 2021, they were doing an investigation on those panels. They halted the delivery of the Dreamliners, and it looked into the gaps between panels.
Sure.
And Boeing said it made changes in its manufacturing process, and deliveries ultimately
You mean
resumed.
Boeing didn't cite the Cybertruck as a reason? Like, look at their panel gap. It's fucking terrible. Ours is better than that.
Their gaps are a mess. That's true.
This does seem mildly concerning. I mean, this is the sort of thing I would expect from, like, I don't know, Chevrolet, not necessarily Boeing.
It's a lot less of a problem if your Chevrolet gaps are.
Could you imagine if like a whistleblower at GM came out and they're like, they got to jump on the panels? Everybody would be like, well, yeah, it's part of the procedure.
cares?
Of course.
They do.
Like, it's a truck. What do you think's going to happen? I don't want to end up in a world where we're just like piling on Boeing, but this does seem mildly concerning.
A little careless. Yeah,
I mean, by the way, I flew back on a 737 MAX 8 and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
And I made plenty of jokes too.
I was on Alaskan Air, believe me, and I was like, everybody keep your seatbelts buckled.
I was talking to one of the flight attendants who was super cool, and they were bitching about some of the amenities, the flight attendant amenities, and the Airbus, and how it's a pain in the ass to get stuff in and out, and yada yada yada. And I was just letting them go, and they were going on, and I was like, but it does have its perks. And they were like, well, what's that? And I was like, the doors stay on. Chuckle.
Sure.
All right. I would say I was crushing it, but the in-flight entertainment was decent that day.
The whistleblower says, I literally saw people jumping on the pieces of the airplane to get them to align. By jumping up and down, you're deforming the parts so that the holes align temporarily. That's not how you build an airplane,
No.
he says.
I mean, I am no metallurgist, and I'm sure some mechanical engineer will write in and tell me that I'm right and or wrong, but it seems like you're adding stress by doing that and then bolting it up. Like, I've done this before. I've done this on my deck. I'm not worried about the stress on the 2x4s on my deck.
Do you take your deck up to 33,000 feet, 35,000
just
feet?
once. You only do it one time. Yeah, it was a crazy 4th of July. I bought a bunch of shit off AliExpress and blew it all up and got to 33,000 feet.
He says that the issues will dramatically reduce the life of the planes. These planes are supposed to last 50 years.
That's crazy, by the way, trying to get 50 years out of one of those airframes. But we've done it.
Supposed to get 44,000 flights out of each. So that's actually how they rate it, by number of flights.
That's amazing.
In happier news, Waymo's robotaxi service is set to expand into Los Angeles today. Service starts today for Waymo. The rides right now are free. There are 50 driverless taxis in the Los Angeles area. The coverage map is 63 square miles of LA from Santa Monica to downtown.
I am super excited about this. I'm disappointed you and I still haven't done this.
Well, we're gonna do it now because it's open to the public. The wait list is over.
Sure, but we should have done it earlier.
They gave me a pass for like 2 weeks, and it happened to be a period of time where I was out of town. Right,
wanted a guinea pig on
I
you?
think they planned that because Google can hear everything we say.
It's true,
because I have that Google Home device.
Yeah, totally.
And so they go, oh, he's going to be out of town. Give him the pass now. Give him the pass now. I'm sure they do that.
I am very excited about this. I am curious to know what their coverage area is because my understanding is the car doesn't have to go places that the internet doesn't work.
Right. If cell service is bad, they don't go there.
That's like most of LA, I feel like.
But certainly most of Beverly Hills for sure.
I am very bullish. I think you and I are both very bullish on Waymo and robotaxi.
Now, by contrast to that, Elon Musk has announced that Tesla will unveil a robotaxi on August 8th. You saw this press release?
Yeah, this sounds terrible.
Yeah, he's a long affinity for self-driving vehicles, although, as you and I know, he has no experience making one. By August 8th, he's not going to have the technology, I promise you. If he doesn't have it today, he's certainly not going to have it by August 8th.
So, okay, a couple things are interesting about this. One is I feel like do you just climb into a coffin and they just take you right to the cemetery? Is that like, they're like, oh no, it's safer this way. Yeah, let's skip a step. Like it's more efficient. But truly, Tesla should have owned this, right? Tesla has this giant fleet of cars that potentially could be autonomous vehicles had they gotten their software together. And like I could see a world where they took, I don't know, whatever, Model 3s off lease or surplus demand and just flooded the market with effectively robotaxis. It's kind of fascinating to me because you could have a fleet that moves around to where there's demand. Like, whatever, if there's a game at SoFi, tens of thousands of people that are going to need rides somewhere, you could just autonomously move the fleet there and then just charge. Like, it's all just upside for them, which makes sense and is feasible.
If and only if you actually make a self-driving car that doesn't drive you into telephone poles.
It turns out you actually need the car to be able to operate and not go full speed into a telephone pole or truck, decapitating the members inside. You would hope that it doesn't do those things. Like, also, by the way, maybe don't focus. Maybe don't focus on the autonomous vehicle software. Maybe focus on the steering column bolt. Maybe start there. Let's solve the easy problems first. Anyway, no, I'm not super bullish on this. I did have a conversation loosely related to this with a gentleman. He was a client of a friend of mine's, and I don't know him, and we were talking, and he was telling me he was very excited to tell me that he put his Tesla. They gave him a free month of fully autonomous mode. Free month. And he used it and he loved it, and they're trying to upsell him into buying it. And first of all, I was like, oh, nice cash grab, Tesla. And he was like, oh, it's great. It's fully autonomous. And I'm just sitting there thinking, do I want to fight with this guy? Yeah. Like, do I really want to have the conversation?
Okay.
At a certain point, I feel like an age, I'm now totally okay. If you're like, hey, 2 + 2 is 5. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, it is. You're right.
That.
Yeah,
sure,
man.
Go with that.
Yeah, you nailed it. I just don't want to have the fight. You clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So I'm going to sounds great. Buy 2.
Waymo has been testing autonomous cars far longer than Tesla has existed. They've been doing this. This started as a research project back at Stanford.
Yeah.
Way before Google got involved. And then Google just thought, well, let's throw money at this thing in a big way, and grabbed all the people who were doing the research at Stanford and said, now do this, a lot more of this with a lot more money, and you can, go a lot faster.
You know what they say, all good things in technology come from a farm.
And you know what that farm is, sure.
Terrible. Should go back to being a farm.
What? You don't like the Stanford campus?
Well, I went to a much better school.
For the listeners who have no idea what we're talking about, Stanford is called the farm because it used to be Leland Stanford's farm. It used to be where he kept his horses.
Because you and I went to a much, much better school, sure. I feel it's our place to make them return back to the roots from which they came.
To being farms?
Farms. I always love when I meet people like some super smart double PhD from Stanford, and I'll be like, so you're a farmer? And about half of them get it.
Sure.
And half of them get it and kind of chuckle, and the other half are just like, what? No, I'm like, you have no sense of humor, do you?
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, one of our listeners has sent us a voicemail.
Well, first of all, this is normally, I think most of the people on the show would know, this is normally where we talk about what we've seen or read this week.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we both agree the best thing we've seen this week was the total eclipse. Total adjacent for you.
The eclipse has eclipsed everything.
The eclipse has eclipsed everything.
As it were.
So we had a listener that sent in some questions via our voice message system, which is awesome. I'm so glad when people use that. Mm-hmm. And who was this? Who has the question here?
Oh, let me just play it for you.
Sure.
Hi, Jeff and CJ. This is PG Morgan. I know you covered EVs a month ago, but given its recent sales downturn, do you think Tesla will still be an independent car maker in 5 years' time? And if not, who do you think will buy them? Second question, what was the science fiction story you read as a teenager that still sticks with you? Mine, for what it's worth, is J.G. Ballard's The Subliminal Man.
These are good questions. I'm glad that he sent in 2, by the way. Thank you, PG.
Tesla reported significant sales downturn, in case anybody didn't know, the first quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
It's the first time they've seen a year-over-year decline since the pandemic began in 2020. Several factors are cited for the downturn, including increased competition. Yeah, they went from just Tesla to everybody makes electric cars now.
Sure.
A slowing growth in electrical vehicle demand, which is not true. That's what they cited, but it's not true because demand is still really strong. And Tesla's own struggles to keep production in line with delivery. Sales in Q1 of 2024 was 386,000 vehicles worldwide, and then deliveries are a close approximation of sales.
Sure.
Sales in Q1 of 2023 was 423,000 vehicles delivery. So the year-over-year decline was 8.5%.
So the root of PG's question was, do we think they're going to remain an independent company in 5 years' time?
Right, because of the downturn. What do we think of the future of Tesla holds? Let me back up and finish one more stat. A mean estimate of 11 analysts compared by FactSet said they were expecting deliveries of around 457,000 vehicles for the first 3 months of the year. Tesla missed that target by 15%. I think that's a terrible way to say that. Tesla didn't miss that target. The analysts are the one who got this wrong, not Tesla. They're the ones guessing Tesla's numbers.
The guys throwing the darts didn't throw the darts into the right number.
Okay, now go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, but I think the reason that is relevant and important is it's what the business is being valued on, right? Unfortunately, it's being valued on what these guys are predicting they're going to do. And that's what the upside is, and that's not what's happened.
The multiple sort of looks like they're predicting that Tesla would be the only electric vehicle company and that Tesla would sell everyone electric vehicles on the planet. That's what the multiple looks like.
The root of the question here was, are they an independent company in 5 years' time?
Yeah.
I got to believe the answer is yes.
They're still the number one seller of electric cars. No one beats them.
Absolutely. I think that may change. That's the more interesting question to me. I think that certainly may change. I think in 5 years' time, they will no longer be selling over half the cars. I think they'll be selling a lot less than half the cars.
And they sell 4 models, something like that?
They have, well, if you count the Cybertruck, then yeah, 4 models.
4 models. And Ford, which I believe is number 2, has like 1 model. They have 2 models, but really one is doing all the heavy lifting.
Of EVs?
And they're number 2.
No, well, no. They've got, I mean, they have at least 2 solid models that they sell, right? Between the Mach-E and the Lightning.
The Mach-E that's doing most of the heavy lifting. That's the one everyone wants.
This is interesting because I really would have not predicted this or seen this had we talked about this 5-10 years ago. The things that I think were Tesla superpowered, other than being early and I think being somewhat prophetic on building infrastructure, which has certainly been a boon for them.
Huge boon.
What I expected was you have 3 orders of magnitude reduction in moving parts, right? So that should make it a lot easier to build a car because there's less shit you've got to catch up with.
Sure.
On building it. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I thought this and said this then. What I didn't expect was for them to fuck up some of the more basic things that, or at least that I thought were basic, to be able to drag over, like fit and finish. And the fit and finish on these cars is not great.
Fit and finish is hard.
I mean, yeah, but I would suspect you go throw some money at cherry picking the folks that really know how to do this shit, and they come over from other existing car manufacturers and bring a lot of that knowledge with them, right? You're not bringing the design of a 3 Series. You're bringing over like how the panels fit together, like how to design them. And I got to believe that knowledge came over. I just wonder how much of it was pushed down for various reasons of like, oh, we don't do it that way anymore, or we want to be different, or cost, or whatever. But I really feel like that's missing, and I'm surprised it's still missing out of the lineup now. Like their fit and finish on all their lines is still so not great.
Have you seen a Cybertruck up close?
Oh, several. Some rusted, some not.
Well, they can fix that with a little, Brillo pad or whatever. The panels to me, and everyone I've seen, they do look like this car went over a heavy bump and everything shook and shifted a little bit.
Okay, first of all,
it just looks a little wonky.
Okay, 2 things. 1, it has gone over a heavy bump, right? It's been driving around. 2, that shouldn't have an effect. You shouldn't look at a car and be like,
ideally, no, but that's what it looks like.
That dude drove over a speed bump. That fucking Ferrari's ruined.
It's like we forgot to bolt down the panels and somebody went over a bump.
Well, they do have a history of that. No, but again, back to PG's question, do I think these guys are going to be independent in 5 years? Yeah, they're a $500 billion company. Who the fuck's going to buy them?
Seems very likely. Even though the analysts are so off, and by the way, I think investors are so off in what this company is valued at, what it should be valued at.
Well, that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the valuations is whack.
They're still selling a lot of cars.
Right, and what does Elon hold? He owns a fifth of this thing, I think, still. He owns like 20+%.
Like that.
So he owns a big chunk of it. And I don't see this thing, like if we're to get gobbled up, it's probably got to go down at least 1+ order of magnitude in order for anybody to even gobble it up. I don't see a world where that happens. Maybe, but also what are you buying at that point?
Yeah.
Like if it's gone down that much, what are you really buying? Are you buying the name? I don't know what's left. So my prediction would be in 5 years, it's still independent.
There's nothing to buy an electric car company because anybody can make one. Anybody can do this. It's not like an internal combustion engine that required so much specialization, so much knowledge. This is way
I hear you, but
much easier.
I believe Henrik Fisker would like to say something about that.
I mean, you're right. It's not, people can screw it up.
I mean, we were talking about this weekend. Like, if you want to roll the dice and get a cheap EV, go buy a Fisker. Buy 2.
The new Oceans, because there's not going to be any, there's going to be no parts for it. There'll be no aftermarket.
Ocean be drying up.
But if you look at a lot of the other people who are delivering electric cars, look at BYD.
Yeah.
Those cars are great.
Oh, yeah.
They really, really have engineered some quality vehicles.
I'm still a little hesitant to say that. I'm not convinced that those are, I think you're going to have the same fit and finish problems. You're going to have the same technology problems in them that you see.
You have the same technology problems. It's the same batteries that are in those cars. Absolutely. I don't think the fit and finish problems are as bad. I think they look a little better.
I don't know. I haven't seen one, so I can't comment on the fit and finish. I am being very generic and looking at, let's call them inexpensively designed, Chinese engineer products that are built typically to a price and not to a
They're
standard
better
of
than
quality.
you think.
I don't
they
know.
are much better than I expected.
Have you seen the crash test results from it? I don't know. Are they as good?
Well, no, I haven't seen that.
Like we do have a lot of regulation that I know a lot of folks.
But to get them in Europe, they had to go through all those same tests.
That's what gives me a little pause.
All those same tests.
Like you had to get through that to get it there.
They're huge in Europe. So in the U.S., we just ban them, so you don't see them here. But they're out there.
Well, yeah, that turns out that has pretty effective. We ban those. You don't want to ban them. We won't.
If you look at the Ford Mach-E, those panels look like they fit together perfectly.
The Mach-E has the fit and finish of a Ford, which I would never tell you Ford has great fit and finish, but relative to the Tesla, it kind of does.
It's a massive difference.
The best fit and finish out there, in my opinion, are going to be the Germans with the German manufacturers with very closely behind the Japanese manufacturers. You get in a shitty entry-level VW as a taxi in Europe, and it has better fit and finish than the Premier, than the Cadillacs.
If you've seen the electric BMWs, the fit and finish on those is fantastic.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It's be interesting to see where this goes, but at least the first half half of PG's question is I do think these guys will be independent still in 5 years.
Yeah, can I just glint a slight variant of
please.
this question? Do you think Elon Musk will still be running?
Probably not. I would say no.
If he's declining at the rate he's declining, and it's been a really fast decline, that doesn't mean he won't suddenly change his ways. And because he did admit that his remarks on X on Twitter have not helped the company.
Of course.
When you saw that deposition for a lawsuit, the things he admitted, you go, oh, he's aware actually of things he's doing that aren't good.
I also have moments of reflection during sobriety. Weird.
Well, hopefully he has more and more moments of reflection and more sobriety.
I just don't know if
because you need that in a CEO.
I just don't know if it's going to be as interesting to him. I think, especially as he continues to have a massive amount of wealth, he's going to be like, well, a lot of upside here for me to make this better or work. I'm going to go on to, whatever, putting people on the moon or Jupiter or whatever his next thing is that he wants to do. Under the sea.
Okay, so let's get to the second part of the question, which I think is a very interesting
question.
His book, sci-fi story that he liked as a teenager was J.G. Ballard's The Subliminal Man, which is, by the way, an excellent story.
Yeah.
This guy's got these signs by his house, and they're subliminally, he's afraid he's getting a subliminal advertisement that are forcing him to continually buy things.
Sure.
And there's another guy who's like, a conspiracy theorist guy, he thinks, who's saying that, who eventually ends up getting killed.
This is like Carl Sagan prophetic right here. That's what this is.
Yeah, and at the end of the story, the guy who's our hero goes out and he's going to buy his wife a new car. It's a great story.
At the end of the story, our hero goes and uninstalls Facebook. That's what he does.
It's an older story than that. It's pre all of those things. I'm going to say Scanner Darkly, Philip K. Dick's story from 1977. Yeah. Kind of a dystopian novel, which I enjoy to begin with, but it's about narcotics agents and the dangers of addiction, and it has a really cool thing. You've heard me talk about it. Certainly, Super Troopers, where he's using jump cuts to show you the cop car jumping around. It's essentially what we call an unreliable narrator. This story is full of unreliable narration.
Oh, really?
And so it's great. It's really fun. The blur between truth and illusion is I think I would like this. Quite good. I
have to give this a go. Yeah. I have to take a little room. I got what's the right word?
Little license.
I got a little latitude. I didn't take a little license here with PG's question because I'm sure I read some sci-fi as a kid. I don't normally read a lot of fiction. I can't remember any, but I can remember a story that has stuck with me forever that is not science fiction, but is in the same vein, and that is The Cuckoo's Egg by Clifford Stoll.
Oh, this is science reality.
Yeah, science reality. So this was like the late 80s. I think this was 1989. I picked it up right after it came out. I would not put this book down. I think it was one of the first books I read where I literally, like page turner, could not stop reading it. And it was such an amazing story.
Can you give us a brief synopsis of the story? He is in charge of computers at Lawrence Livermore Berkeley Labs. I don't even know what they call it anymore.
But he's not he's a different kind of nerd, right? He's an astronomer. Like his background was astronomy. And one day he had like this weird accounting error. This is like the mid 80s.
He's tasked with finding 75 cents of computer time that someone spent and didn't pay for.
Exactly. So he traces this error back to this unauthorized user who had not paid for some time and basically starts chasing them. It's like teleprinters and all this it's like an early espionage story, computer espionage story where he's trying to figure out who this is and track him down. And it's fascinating, right? I mean, he
goes and gathers like 50 terminals from everybody's desk because it's the weekend and he can do that. Puts them all together, puts them all different phone lines so that he can see where the hacker is coming in.
It's a great story.
And then keeps that terminal up and puts everything back in the office before everybody gets back on Monday.
If you like anything to do with technology or computers, this book is worth reading. I haven't read it in years. I'm pretty sure it holds up. I will read it again. I would love to have Cliff on this show. I think we should try to get him on here. He makes Acme bottles now in Berkeley. That's what he does. He's in Berkeley.
Yes.
And I'm sure we could get him on. I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I suspect we could get him on. I would love to have him on because it's such a fascinating story. And I mean, this was before, when I read this is when I was still like reading the jargon file and knee deep in the internet folklore. This is before I knew Kevin. This is any of that. Yeah. And this was like my first entry into that world. And it was fascinating. That's my answer for BG.
Excellent book, Cuckoo's Egg. Highly recommended. Mine is Scanner Darkly, Philip K. Dick. And huge thank you to PG Morgan for sending a voicemail for us.
Please send in more questions. We'd love to answer.
That was really fun. That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm CJ Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, My Favorite, Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcast from.
Podcastindex.org, they have a list of all the amazing apps that use their incredible podcast index. Special thanks to our floor director, Jeff Veer.
Thanks, Boeing. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
am such an egg snob.
Well, yeah.
I go into places and there's just no one who makes scrambled eggs well.
Homie, I'm at a fucking Great Wolf Lodge. Like, you're basically,
that's true. That's
your
true.
option is an egg bite from Starbucks or a napkin with pizza sauce on it. So, I mean, I'm sorry, Wolfgang's not there fucking cooking up anything for me. So, set your expectations accordingly.
All right, you win.
Egg snob.